this video, I'm now going to show you how to call the roles that we've created in your main playbook. So I'm in the site.yaml file that we created during the basic playbook lesson before, and I've completely erased it because I want to start fresh. Now over here under the roles directory, you can see that I've actually added a couple additional roles. So I've added a HA proxy role and a MariaDB role completely. So now we basically have a full LAMP stack with an HA proxy load balancer. And really quickly, I just kind of wanted to expand these to show you what I did. So if I go into the main YAML file for the MariaDB role, basically it's similar to what we've already done with the other Apache role. We're installing some packages. I've got the MariaDB package here and a couple related packages that I need. I'm configuring SE Linux. I am creating the configuration file, creating the log file, creating the PID directory, starting the service, starting firewall D, and then I'm getting into, inserting the rules and creating the appdb and appdb user. So that's really all that I needed for the database component, and just like that I did with the other roles, I added in a templates file over here, and I handled the handler in the handlers directory. The same thing for the HA proxy role here. Basically, downloading and installing HA proxy, configuring the configuration file, and starting the service. And I do have a handler as well as a template file that I did put inside the templates and handlers directory respectively. So now that I have all of those pieces in order to deploy the full stack, I can now call all these roles from the main playbook. And so I go back to my site YAML here, and I'm going to start off declaring the roles in the order in which I want. So this is going to be an example of a playbook with multiple plays because I'm targeting different hosts. So I'll start off, apply the common configuration to all hosts, and I will do host all there as my declaration. I am connecting as the vagrant user and becoming the root user in all of these. So that will be common. And then I'm actually going to call my role. So I'm going to do common. Great. So that's play number 1. Play number 2, I'm now going to apply the database configuration. And for that, I'm going to run it against the DB server's hosts. So then do remote user vagrant, become yes. And then I'll get my roll call here, which is MariaDB. Then my third role declaration. So here's my third play. I'm going to apply the Apache and the web roles, targeting the web servers group, do remote user, become yes. And then I'm going to call 2 roles here. So I'm going to start with the Apache and then end with web. And then to finish it off, I'm going to apply the load balancing configuration. And I'm going to target LB servers, do a remote user, become yes, roles, HA proxy, and then that's really all that I need. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this file and I'm going to execute the playbook. So remember that tasks are executed sequentially from top to bottom. So the same thing will apply for the roles. Basically, I'm going to start with the common role and it's going to execute in order. So I'm going to start with the SE Linux pieces and go on to NTP and then so on and so forth. So we'll kind of walk through it as it's going through the terminal. So I'm going to go over to that. Ansible-playbook-i host, just like we have been doing, and I'm going to do site YAML and run. Okay, so we're starting off here with the common role, installing the EPEL repository. Now this is going to execute on all of the hosts. So we should see an output on 3. Great. And now we're moving on to the selinux.yml, which we included in that main YAML file. And so now it's going to go through those tasks. Okay, and so that completed successfully. So now we get the OK back on the test to see if SELinux is running. Now we move on to the NTP tasks, which is the second include in the common role. Great, so the install went through. You can see here we've got the handler to restart NTP at the end of that play. And so now we're then moving on to the second roll call, which is the database role. And so we should only be targeting the one host here. So only the database server. Okay, perfect. Looks like everything's going through. So now we're into the starting the service. And then there's the handler at the end. Great. So now we're on to the double roll call, the Apache first, and now the web roll. Okay, perfect. So here we're starting the second roll call with the web install git, and then we're going to move on to checking out the repo and then configuring the file as necessary. So we're just kind of hanging out here. Okay, looks good. So remember, we did the flush handler to run it right after the link app config, and that's happening. And so we got the proper response back from that URL we included. So now we're on to the last roll, which is the load balancing configuration. And it has completed successfully. So hooray, no errors. Looks like everything is good. And again, just like with that principle of idempotency that I've mentioned a few times already, we could run this again, and then everything should return okay because we've already run it before. And that concludes our demonstration on how to call a role inside of your main playbook. Join us in our next lesson where I'll take you through an overview of Ansible Tower.